for 2 minutes, Maharaj?
Oh, definitely. Yes, I know. I'm early. Yeah.
Okay, so can I play Prabhupada chanting, Maharaj?
Oh, please do, yeah.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Please accept our humble obeisances.
Please
You can
accept.
start, Maharaj.
You can start, okay. Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaihevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama So we welcome everyone to our study, Bhakti Vaibhava, and we're studying the 5th canto, and we're looking at the section on Vedic cosmology, which is contained in the 5th canto, chapters 16 up to 26, up to the end of the 5th canto. I just like to begin this evening with a little summary of what we've been looking at. I'll just read a little bit here from the summary of chapter 16, where Srila Prabhupada describes something of the nature of this cosmology from the Vedic point of view. So in the summary of chapter 16, Srila Prabhupada has written, while describing the character of Maharaj Priyavrata and his descendants, Sukadeva Goswami also described Meru mountain and the planetary system known as Bhumandala. Bhumandala is like a lotus flower, and its 7 islands are compared to the whirl of the lotus. The place known as Jambudweep is in the middle of that whirl. In Jambudweep, there is a mountain known as Sumeru, which is made of solid gold. The height of this mountain is 84,000 yojanas, of which 16,000 yojanas are below the earth. Its width is estimated to be 32,000 yojanas at its summit and 16,000 yojanas at its foot. 1 yojana equals approximately 8 miles. This king of mountains, Sumeru, is the support of the planet Earth. So, like that, we're given the summary of Bhumandala, a little description of Bhumandala. Bhumandala is described as a planetary system. Sometimes it's described as a plane. It's sometimes shown flat, but here it's mentioned here it's a planetary system. Anyway, Bhumandala is just like in our Gayatri mantra, we chant Om Bhuva Swa Tat Savitu Varinyam. So there are 3 sections in the upper section of the universe: Bhumandala, Bhuvar Loka, and Swarga Loka. So Bhuloka, Bhuvar Loka, and Swarga Loka, the 3 divisions of the upper section of the universe. So here, in this section, we're looking at Bhumandala, and we're told how it's in the form of the lotus. Lotus is flat. Yeah, lotus is flat. And generally, when people try to illustrate it, they'll show Bhumandala as being flat, with a plane. And then in the middle of the Bhumandala is Jambudweep. First of all, is Jambudweep. And in the middle of Jambudweep is the Meru mountain. And this Meru mountain, we're told, it's the support of the planet Earth. So the dimensions of Meru mountain are very incredible to read, right? 84,000 yojanas. And 1 yojana is 8 miles. So really, it's an inconceivable height. But we have to understand that the Srimad Bhagavatam is revealing to us not just phenomena which are perceivable by our mundane, limited senses, but is describing to us phenomena which are beyond our mind and senses. It's describing to us another dimension we have only limited understanding of phenomena and places in this world. We see everything in 2 or 3 dimensions. But what's being described here in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam is multi-dimensions. And it's phenomena which are, it's not something like we can go and see. People will say, where can I see this Bhumandala? Where is this Meru mountain? I want to see it. Well, you have to be qualified, just like everything else. You want to go to Jambudweep, there's a qualification. Now, great yogis, they can go there. According to our karma, according to our qualification, can enter in there. And generally, people who go to these places, they'll go through the Himalayas and they can enter into the subtler regions of the universe. I think Madhvacharya, when he'd gone to find Vyasadeva, he was able to enter into this kind of region. Madhvacharya wanted to confirm his preaching, that what he was preaching, of course, the Vaishnava philosophy, dualism, and he went to find Vyasadeva to have what he was preaching, to have it all confirmed by Srila Vyasadeva. And so he was traveling with one assistant, and at one point his assistant was thrown back, and only Madhvacharya could enter in. And he actually entered into the subtler region, to the special region there within the Himalayas, where nobody could go without having the proper qualification. So Madhvacharya had that kind of qualification. He could enter in there and he could actually meet with Srila Vyasadeva. He could meet with Srila Vyasadeva, and what he was preaching was discussed and confirmed, and he got the approval of Vyasadeva, and that's why we see in the Parampara that Madhvacharya is there, and he's coming in that line, which comes from Narada to Vyasadeva, and then from Vyasadeva, Madhvacharya. So this is the way of our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, like that. It comes from Vyasadeva to Madhvacharya. Anyway, we have to understand there's a subtler region far beyond the powers of our limited experiences here in this world. And these things are being described to us in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in Jambudweep, we heard how there are 9 divisions there in Jambudweep. Jambu, of course, Jambu, there's a Jambu tree there in the center. There's a huge, huge Jambu tree. Just as the mountains are huge, the trees, the fruit trees are also huge. And the people living there are also huge as well. They're really huge. They're like the size of a country or something, you know. They're hundreds of miles high. They can be hundreds of miles high. So everything is, you know, we're thinking everything in terms of our own limited conceptions. But we have to understand there are things on far different realms, far beyond our understanding. And these things are being described to us in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a little bewildering for us at first. We have to hear it, and we have to contemplate it, and gradually we can begin to understand. So Jambudweep is made in 9 divisions, and in the center of Jambudweep we have Ilavrita, we have Meru Mountain right in the center, first of all. And on top of Meru mountain, we have the resort of Lord Brahma and other 8 demigods. Leading demigods are all residing there, where they oversee the affairs of that region of the universe, Bhumandala. And then in the center of Jambudweep, below Meru mountain, is Ilavritavash. And in Ilavritavash, we were hearing how Lord Shiva leads the devotees there, and they worship, they offer their prayers to Lord Sankarshan. And we heard about Lord Shiva offering nice prayers to Lord Sankarshan and praying to Lord Sankarshan, understanding Lord Sankarshan is the personality of Godhead. He's the controller, he's the creator, and he's offering his respects to Lord Sankarshan. And we also know that Lord Sankarshan is in charge of the false ego. And by worshipping Lord Shiva as a servant of Sankarshan, we can also get rid of our false ego. So Lord Shiva is very devoted to Lord Sankarshan. Lord Shiva himself, his origin is from Sankarshan. And Lord Sankarshan, he's in his expansion as Anantashesha, he's holding up the universes, just like mustard seeds on his hoods. So this is the inconceivable potency of Lord Sankarshan. So that was it in Ilavritavash. Then we went on, we heard about how Bhadrashrava, the son of Dharmaraj, rules in the land known as Bhadrashrava, right? He's Bhadrashva. There's Bhadrashva and Bhadrashrava. So it's Bhadrashva Varsh and Bhadrashrava is the son of Dharmaraj. So Bhadrashva Varsh. Varsh meaning surrounded by land. The borders are land or mountains. And we've got Dweeps and Varsha. Dweeps mean islands and Varsha means surrounded by mountains. So Ilavritavash, Lord Shiva worships Sankarshan, and Bhadrashva Varsh, Bhadrashrava, the son of Dharmaraj, worships Lord Hayagriva or Hayashirsha in that place, along with the devotees. And we heard how people in this land, they feel sorry to see that people cannot understand the nature that death is going to come. Like they see people practically unaware that death is going to come in this world. And they lament for the materialists because of this ignorance which they have. We see materialistic people, they're always very attached to the body and they're very afraid of death. So the Bhadrashrava and his devotees, they lament for these materialistic people, how they're trying to enjoy material happiness, and they'll take they'll do everything they can to prolong their material enjoyment. And it also brought up about how even so-called educated and advanced, even liberated souls, how they sometimes become careless in their transcendental position, and they may be inattentive, and they get some problems. Just like we saw with Bharat Maharaj, he became careless, and the next life he had to become a deer. So there's always danger everywhere. One has to always be on guard against Maya, and you have to constantly pray to Krishna for protection. So Prabhupada explained there, he said, Krishna can forgive us. He can forgive us once, he can forgive us twice, but he cannot go on forgiving us all the time. Once or twice we may be forgiven, but we can't take advantage of that, to think that we can go on falling down and doing nonsense. We have to become very careful, very serious, not to commit mistakes, not to fall into problems. So then we heard about Lord Nrsingadev, and how Lord Nrsingadev is worshipped in Harivarsha by Prahlad Maharaj and all the devotees there. And Prahlad Maharaj begins with his nice prayer, where he prays to Lord Nrsingadev to vanquish his demonic-like desires for fruitive activities and to drive away his ignorance so that we can become fearless in our struggle for existence in this material world. So this is a very beautiful prayer. We want to memorize it and pray to Lord Nrsingadev in that way. The Prabhupada recommends us to do like that. That we certainly want to become fearless in this struggle for existence. We know in this material world it's really a struggle at the present times. There's so much dangers. Before we thought the danger was cancer. Now it's everything becomes worse, more and more dangerous, right? Now it's this COVID which is the danger. And after COVID there'll be something worse. There's no end to the problems, to the danger in the material world. So Prahlad's prayer is very meaningful, that we want to become fearless in our struggle for existence in this material world. There's no reason to be attached to the material body. That's the point. We know we have to give up the material body one day. So why should we be so much worried to hold on to this material body when we know it's going to vanish anyway? And then Prahlad also prays to Lord Nrsingadev that let there be good fortune, let there be auspiciousness everywhere. Let all the envious people be pacified. Very nice thinking. Prahlad Maharaj is always concerned for others. He doesn't think about his own self, he's always thinking about others' welfare. And he prays to Lord Nrsingadev that he can continue like that, to engage in the service of Lord Krishna and remain absorbed in thought of him. So thinking about others, very important. Let there be good fortune everywhere. And Prabhupada expanded on that. He said, let Krishna consciousness spread all over the world. And if by the grace of Krishna everyone accepts it, the thinking of envious people will change. Everyone will think of the welfare of others. Just imagine how the world would be so nice if everyone thought like that. if everyone thought about others and didn't think about their self so much? Wouldn't it be so nice? So Prahlad Maharaj also prays about that he wants to avoid the entanglement or the being trapped in the material life due to attachment to the home, the wife, the children, and all the things in relation to these situations, like money and properties. That Prahlad Maharaj wants to advance in Krishna consciousness, and he knows if we become too attached to these things, then advancement will be very difficult. Of course, we need these things, we have to have these things. He's not saying give them up, but he's saying don't be too attached to them. That's the point. Don't be always thinking to get more and to expand and to improve our material situation, but try to minimize these attachments. Don't get too much concerned about these things. At the same time, externally, we should show concern, but internally, our attachment should be to Krishna. Our real business in life is to advance in Krishna consciousness. But if we get so much concern for material things, then our advancement will be finished. And then Prahlad also spoke about bathing in the holy waters and taking the association from devotees. That although you may go and bathe in the water, the Ganga, and visit holy places, it's not going to be as effective as getting the association with a devotee. If we can get a moment's association with a devotee, then that can change our life. One of my godbrothers told me how he asked Prabhupada, he said, what's better? If we sit and read your book, or if we sit and have somebody explain it and discuss it with us? And Prabhupada said, better you have somebody sit and explain it and discuss it with you, rather than just read. He said, why? He said, because that person will pull your ear. But you may sit and read the book, nothing goes in, or it may go in, it goes out again. You don't learn much. But when you get the association, then that devotee, he will force us, he'll put it, get it into our minds, make it clear to us that we can understand. So this is the position, very important, and Prahlad Maharaj understands that. He's speaking about the importance of association. And then he talks about good qualities. This other nice verse, that we have the one who is a devotee will have all the good qualities. The one who is not a devotee, he may seem like he has some good qualities, but he's constantly struggling with the modes of nature. Sometimes he's in goodness, sometimes he's in passion, sometimes he's in ignorance. But a devotee, one who is devoted to Krishna, he will be transcendental. The modes of passion and ignorance should not be there in the devotee. One who is actually fixed in Krishna consciousness, and be very careful to get rid of the modes of passion and ignorance. That's important for us. And Prahlad talks again about attachment. If we're too attached to material life, then we lose all our good qualities. So, very important for us to develop our attachment for Krishna consciousness and for devotional service, and not to get too much attached to the material aspects of life. While you need them, you have to be careful not to get too much attached and absorbed in them. We don't need, often people have, they have money, they have property, not just for themselves, they have it for their children, they have enough for their grandchildren, they think they have to provide even for their grandchildren. So, it's endless. Material responsibilities are endless. We have to think of our spiritual responsibilities. That's the real goal of life. Okay, then we went on to Ketu Malavarsha, and there we heard about Ramadevi, and she's offering prayers to her husband Kamadev, who is Prajumna, is it? Prajumna, and there was also the Prajapati Samvatsara, who had 36,000 boys and 36,000 girls. And the boys would help him to, they were the deities in the daytime, and the girls were the controlling deities of the nights. And we explained that 36,000 is in relation to the lifetime of a human being. If you live 100 years, then for each day, in a life of 100 years, there'll be 36,000 days. So there was one boy and one girl, one boy for the day, one girl for the night. They were the deities for these particular days in the lifetime of the person. So it was described that the daughters become very agitated upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus they all suffer miscarriages. So Lord Kamadev, Prajumna, is very attractive, very handsome, very pleasing, and he pleases the goddess of fortune. And she offers her prayers. She worships the Lord during this period in his most merciful form. And the mantra, we're told the mantra which she chants in worshipping him. And Prabhupada also mentions that this mantra is very powerful, very good for all devotees. That devotees should know these mantras. Mentioned here in the purport of 18, under the guidance of a spiritual master, everyone should chant this mantra and thus become a complete and perfect devotee of the Lord. One may chant this mantra for complete liberation from material bondage, and after liberation, one may continue to chant it while worshipping the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. All mantras, of course, are meant for this life and the next life, as Krishna himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita. And then Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita 9:14. A devotee who both in this life and the next chants the Maha Mantra or any mantra is called Nitya Yukto Pasaka. Nitya Yukto Pasaka from Bhagavad Gita. Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantas Chadradavrata Namashyantas Yamam Bhaktya Nitya Yukta Upasate. So Nitya Yukto Pasaka. Nitya Yukto Pasaka. This is called Nitya Yukto Pasaka. Chanting the mantra. Chant constantly. And in this way we can always be in Krishna consciousness. So Rama Devi glorifies Lord Krishna, saying that he is the real husband, that other men, they're not able to actually fulfill the task of being a husband and giving real protection. The protection actually comes simply by the grace of Lord Krishna. The duty of a husband was described there, that the husband's meant to protect the wife. But actually, the men in the material world, they're not able to do this job very well. But Krishna, he's that one who actually protects everyone. So Krishna is the real husband. And that was also mentioned in the 10th canto. You find Rukmini writing to Lord Krishna when Rukmini was supposed to be married to Shishupal. So she wrote a letter to Lord Krishna, and she told Lord Krishna that she only wanted to marry him, and she was prepared to do austerities life after life until she could achieve it. But she understood also that these other men are actually just material bodies, and they're not able to actually give her the same pleasure which Lord Krishna has, because Lord Krishna is the supreme male. He's the perfect male, and all of these other men of the material world, they're very limited and imperfect, and they have so many faults and disqualifications. But in Lord Krishna, there's simply only good qualities. So she wanted Lord Krishna for her husband. And Ramadevi also describes that the Lord as Pradyumna, Kamadeva, he's also the real husband for all women. And she describes about how she talks about the Lord's lotus, getting the shelter of the lotus feet. You fulfill her desires, but in the end she becomes broken-hearted and laments. Therefore one need not worship your lotus feet for some material benefit. Oh, she talks about women who worship for some material benefit. So this is a problem, that people come to worship, take up Krishna consciousness with material desires. So Krishna can fulfill these material desires, but then they will also understand that these material desires don't give them the happiness and the satisfaction which they actually wanted. So asking Krishna for something material is not really necessary. If we really need it, Krishna knows, and Krishna can arrange to give us it. And then Ramadevi also said that she actually gives her mercy just to devotees. So if somebody has some wealth, it's not necessarily true that he must have received the blessings of Lakshmi, because materialistic people, they get the blessings not from Lakshmi, but they get them from Durga. Mother Durga gives them her blessings. Lakshmi only gives her blessings to the devotees. So when a devotee gets great wealth, that's the blessings of Lakshmi. But when a materialist gets wealth, that's coming from Goddess Durga. And we see devotees get great wealth, just like His Holiness Devamrita Swami. He got a donation, somebody gave him $1 million. And so when they gave it to him, he gave it to the TOVP. He sent it to Mayapur to build the temple. And Prabhupada actually says, he said, the correct use of wealth, if someone has wealth, the best way to use that wealth is to build a nice temple for the worship of Lord Krishna. So building the temple of the Vedic planetarium is the proper way to utilize the wealth of this material world. And then finally Ramadevi talks about how the Lord only shows his real mercy to his devotees, but not to her. She said, I'm not so qualified as all your great devotees. And she's talking, of course, about the gopis. That Lakshmi or Ramadevi had gone to Vrindavan to do austerities to try to get to take part in Rasa Leela, but she could never do it. She could never get admission to Rasa Leela. And the reason was because in order to take part in Rasa Leela, you have to first take birth in the families of the gopis. You have to be born as a gopi. And we see the Vedas personified. Oh no, not the Vedas personified, but the sages of Dandakaranya. They had met Lord Rama. They had met Lord Rama in Dandakaranya, and they wanted to have an amorous relationship with him. So he told them, you come in my next incarnation and you can satisfy your desire. So they took birth in the families of gopis. In the same way the personified Vedas came, and they also wanted to take part in Rasa Leela. So before they could do it, they all had to take birth in the families of the gopis. And then from the families of the gopis, they got the body of a gopi, and they could come and join Krishna in Rasa Leela. So there are different groups of gopis taking part in Rasa Leela. Some with personified Vedas, and some are the sages from Dandakaranya, and some are new gopis coming up, just going back to Godhead for the first time, and others are Nityasiddha gopis, they're coming down like this. So Ramadevi described all this to Lord Krishna, to her husband Pradyumna, Kamadev. And then next we hear, next we're going to hear, anyway, about what happens in Ramyakavarsha. Do we have somebody here from the groups in the last class who was going to tell us about Ramyakavarsha?
Yes, Maharaj, Ramyakavarsha will be dealt by Nandkishore Prabhu and Patit Pawan Prabhu.
Very good.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, it's mentioned that to begin with, that in Ramyaka Varsha, where Vaivasvata Manu is ruling, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in the end of Chakshusha Manvantara as Matsya Avatar. And there Vaivasvat Manu worships the Lord Matsya by chanting the first mantra which is mentioned. And the important point in this mantra it's mentioned is that firstly it's said that this is the Mukhya Atma. Manu describes the Lord as Mukhya Atma, stating that it is the first incarnation that appears of Lord Matsya. And the second important thing that is mentioned there, Srila Prabhupada explains the term Satvaya, that although a fish body is considered to be in passion or ignorance, but when the Lord takes such a form, he is still totally transcendental. He is not to be considered in any of the modes. So that the mantra, the first mantra in which Vaivasvata Manu is worshipping Lord Matsya, the prime, the important thing Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport is that when the Lord appears in any of these forms, like the boar form or the tortoise form, he's yet to be considered as transcendental to all the material qualities there. And also it mentions about Srila Jayadev Goswami's verse, the Dashavtara Stotram is mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. Going ahead, again Vaivasvata Manu continues to offer his prayers, and in the next prayer he mentions the fact that the Lord is the supreme controller. There is no controller beyond him. And the analogy given is that just as a puppeteer is controlling dancing dolls, and the husband is controlling his wife. So the Lord controls all the living entities in the universe, including the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. And Srila Prabhupada in the whole purport explains this fact of the Lord being the supreme controller and everybody being in his control like dancing dolls. And next in this prayer, Vaivasata Manu is explaining about the Lord's presence in the heart of all the living entities, and the goal of one's life being to realize that Supreme Personality of Godhead in the heart of everyone, which he says is possible by sound vibration of Vedic mantras. So again, there the important points that Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport is that of the location of the Lord being in the heart of all the living entities, and one should realize that and surrender unto that Lord in the heart and understand oneself submissive to that Lord, and that is Srila Prabhupada explains there as self-realization. There also Srila Prabhupada says that how Lord Narayan is away or transcendental again from material nature, Srila Prabhupada is explaining. But he says people who don't know this, they concoct very stupid ideas like Daridra Narayan or Swami Narayan or Mithya Narayan. He says that people don't understand that Narayan is actually beyond all these material creation, and he's in fact the controller of it. But those who don't understand this fact, they start labeling poor people as Narayan and create these misconceptions in the society and they just continue to follow those kind of concocted beliefs. That's another point Srila Prabhupada mentions there. Proceeding to the next verse, it's described how even the great demigods are all, and everyone, and it's written there even that the great leaders of the universe are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada explains there that in the material world, the prime business in which every living entity enters is envying the Supreme Personality of Godhead and trying to defy him. And Srila Prabhupada says that this exists even from the higher to the lower, all the planets of the material world. This business of trying to envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead is going on. And when someone tries to serve the Lord, then the so-called philanthropists will come and say that you're wasting time, it's better to feed the poor people. And again, Srila Prabhupada writes about the concept of Daridra Narayan, where people, they don't agree to serve the Lord, but they try to do so-called good work by starving poor people and trying to help them. But Srila Prabhupada says they don't understand the fact that actually it's the Lord Narayan who is maintaining everyone, and no philanthropic person can actually claim to maintain anybody. And he quotes the verse of Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman, that foolishly materialist thinks that they can go ahead and maintain people, but however it's the Lord who is in charge of everyone and maintains everyone. And that is the prayer again which Vaivasata Manu is praying to Lord Matsya, that people are envious of him and they don't understand that the Lord is in fact the one who's maintaining everyone, and without the presence of the Lord, nothing can go on in this world. So he says that's the prayer of Vaivasata Manu, and which Srila Prabhupada explains that in his purport by again saying that without the Lord's presence, without his sanction, nothing can go on. So here I'll end Guru Maharaj, and Patit Pavan Prabhu, you'll be carrying forward from here, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. I think Nandakishore Prabhu has covered most of the points. So just a few or one more is that first thing is that the Prabhupada mentions, or in the verse specifically mentioned, that the form of the Lord, the Matsya, which is worshipped in this particular place, is transcendental. And generally fishes have the mode of ignorance and passion. And however, when the Lord takes such forms, he is transcendental to all of these. and therefore it's important for us to see the Lord as a transcendental form. And also, it says that the devotees, when they see such pastimes of the Lord or actions of the Lord, and specifically the working of the material nature, they understand how wonderful the Lord will be, and specifically Prabhupada mentions that the Lord is acting behind these wonderful workings of the material nature. So that is an important element for us to understand from this particular section. That's all, Maharaj.
Prabhupada also talks in the purport about how sometimes even devotees are bewildered. Even though they're devotees, they're bewildered. They're thinking, I'm the maintainer. They're thinking, I'm the maintainer. And can you think of some examples where devotees even become bewildered like that?
Maharaj, in Govardhan Leela, Indra actually thinks he's a controller and he gets angry when the worship is stopped, when the Prajavasis stop the worship.
Yes, right. That's the example. And also even Lord Brahma also a little bit, he's thinking, sometimes he's thinking I'm the Supreme, because, he's so great, he's in such a big position in the universe. He wanted to see Krishna's power. He thought, when he saw Krishna with the cows, he thought, how could he be the Supreme? So Lord Brahma also became influenced by the illusory energy. So those two examples are there. It shows, have to be very careful. Also, I wanted to ask about the history of this Vivishvata Manu. Do you know who he was in previous life?
Shradadeva.
Who?
Shradadeva.
Shradadeva.
Yeah.
Well, there's another. There was Satyavrat. Remember the pastime of Satyavrat?
Yes, fish incarnation.
Yes, Satyavrat. He was offering, he was doing his Akshman one day when a little fish came, and it asked him to please take me out of this water because there's so many fish here. They're going to eat me, they're going to devour me. And so he took the little fish and he put it in his kamandalu. But then the fish grew too big to be in the kamandalu, and so he put the fish in a bigger pot. But that pot was also not big enough as the fish was growing. So finally he put the fish in a lake. But then the fish got so big, even the lake wasn't good enough. So he brought the fish to the ocean. And then the fish told Satyavrat that there's going to be an inundation in like 1 week's time, and that he wanted Satyavrat to be ready and to collect all the sages and to collect herbs and different things, so that he said after the devastation they could begin again. So it happened, there was a great devastation, and Satyavrat was ready. He collected everything. He had all the sages and together, and they had a boat ready, and with the help of Vashuki, they used Vashuki to attach the boat to the horn on Matsya Avatar. And Matsya Avatar pulled the boat through the devastation. And then after the devastation, then they came and the boat came on the Himalayas one point, and they got off the boat there, and they again began civilization, because the whole world had been inundated. And so they were up there in the Himalayas, and gradually the water went down, and they could begin again civilization. So that Satyavrat, he took birth. In his next life, he became the son of Vivishwan. He became Vaivashvata Manu. So because he was devoted to Matsya Avatar in previous life, so then as Manu he was also devoted to Matsya Avatar. Right? Did I get it right? Have I made any mistakes? Okay, so we'll go on. Who's going to tell us about the next incarnation? Going on to...
Maharaj, next Varsha is Hiranmaya Varsha.
Yes.
By Amrita Padma Mataji and Venkat Gopinath Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, my obeisances.
So Hiranmaya Varsha, it is we have taken from verses 29 to 33. So here the Vishnu lives in the form of a tortoise, that is Kurma Sharira. This is most dear and beautiful form as always worshipped there. Here the Aryama, who is chief resident of Hiranya Varsha, he is offering, Hiranmaya Varsha, he is offering prayers. So the prayers are like this. So he says, you are the reservoir of all transcendental qualities and being entirely entirely untinged by matter. You are perfectly situated. You are perfectly situated in pure limited by past, present and future. You are present everywhere as the shelter of all things. So here Prabhupada says in Brahma Samhita, it is stated like Goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuta. The Lord always remains in Goloka, the topmost planet in the spiritual world. At the same time, he is all pervading. And again, he is giving us some references from Bhagavad Gita. Lord is always all pervasiveness. So he says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesh arjuna tishtati. And also he says, Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, 15th shloka, Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishta matta smriter jnanam apohanam cha. He says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge and forgetfulness. So therefore, although Lord is present everywhere, he cannot be seen through our normal eyes. So here again the Aryama, who is a chief resident, he says Lord is Anupalakshita Sthana. No one can locate him. This is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the next verse again he praises the Lord. This visible cosmic manifestation is a demonstration of your own creative energy. He says, since the countless varieties of forms within this cosmic manifestation are nothing but a simply display of your eternal energy, that is Virat Rupa, universal form. So this is not your real form. Except for the devotees in transcendental consciousness, no one can perceive your actual form. And Prabhupada says, he gives an analogy, he says, a fire consists of three elements, that is the heat, light and the fire itself. So though the heat and light is there, but they are not reality. The fire energy is the real one. So they are just temporary, that is formless energies of the fire. And also Prabhupada quotes, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. He says entire material creation is resting on Krishna's energy, whether it is material, spiritual or marginal, whatever it is, because his form is absent from the expansion of his energy. He is personally present he is not personally present everywhere. So again he says, this inconceivable expansion of the Supreme Lord's energy, this is called Achintya Shakti. So therefore no one can understand the real form of the Lord without becoming his devotee. Again he praises in the next shloka that you manifest in different energies in countless forms with a different type of living entities, like born from wombs, from eggs, from perspiration, as plants, trees, and that of earth. Also has living beings, both moving and non-moving, and including the demigods, learned sages, pittas, the outer space as higher planetary systems, which is even heaven, planets, or even the planet Earth, its hills, rivers, seas, oceans, and islands. Here he says different living beings, how they are brought up in this cosmic world. This in this verse, Prabhupada says he rejects the theory of Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, which is that the spirit or Brahman is real, whereas the manifested material world with its variety of things is false. So he says nothing is false. Only thing is, it is temporary. So nothing is false. So both are factual. So he gives one example saying someone becomes angry for some period. No one can say that his anger is false, but it is temporary. So in that way, everything is temporary in this material world, but it is real. So this is the characteristics of this. And in the 33 verse, again, Aryama is praying to the Lord, "Oh my Lord, your name, form, bodily features are expanded in countless forms. No one can determine exactly how many forms exist. No one cannot even count. And your incarnation has learned scholar Kapila Deva have analyzed the cosmic manifestation as containing 24 elements." So if one is interested in a Sankhya philosophy by which one can enumerate the different truth, so he must hear from it from you, like that he is praising the Lord. And unfortunately, non-devotees simply count the different elements and remain ignorant of your form, actual form. So here again Prabhupada quotes, Prabhu, Venkat Gopinath Prabhu will ask.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In the purport, Prabhupada explains about what Krishna is stating in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya dakshena prakriti svete sa characharam etunanena akonteya jagat viparrir vartate. So it explains about this material nature, which is working under the Krishna's direction, and all the moving and unmoving beings by its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So and this is the law of this is the law of the nature. That's what Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, Maharaj. So we have taken up to sloka number 33, Maharaj.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's the last prayer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's nice. This point that Aryama is making, that these people, they spend their time counting the atoms and counting the elements, and they neglect the actual form of the Lord. Instead of worshipping the Lord, they give all their attention to studying the elements. So he's talking about the Sankhya philosophers.
Maharaj, I have one more point to say. In Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, 29th shloka, Pitranam Aryama Chasmi, Krishna says. So here, that Aryama and this Aryama both are same, no?
Yes. What does it? What's the translation in the Bhagavad Gita? What does it say? Among
Pitruloka, I am the Aryama.
Among Pitris, I am Aryama. Huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Do you know anything else about Aryama? Have you heard of him before? Any other place?
He's Yamaraja's son. I think he's Yamaraja's son, Maharaja. No.
I don't know if he's the son of Yamaraj, but what happened was, there was a connection. What happened was Yamaraj got cursed. Right? Remember the story? Manduka Muni? Manduka Muni?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know the story? Do you remember Maraji? Manduka? Manduka Muni got arrested with all the other dacoits.
Yeah, Prabhu, I want to hear Prabhu again.
Okay, so Manduka Muni was in the cave, and a gang of dacoits, they all came hiding in the cave. And so the king's men came and they arrested all the dacoits, and they got Manduka Muni as well, because he was with them in the cave. And they didn't understand that Manduka Muni wasn't really one of them. And so they all got taken to court, and they were all to be killed. And at that time, the method of killing people, they were put on top of a spike, and a spike went right through them, or they had to walk onto the top of spikes. So some horrible method anyway of killing people, killing these criminals. So Manduka Muni was sentenced in this way, but just before the sentence was performed, the king heard what had happened, and the king came and he fell at the feet of Manduka Muni, and he apologized and said, "I'm very sorry, a great mistake has been made, please forgive us." And so Manduka Muni was upset that he'd been treated in this way, and he went to Yamaraj, and he asked Yamaraj, "Why did this happen?" And so at that time Yamaraj explained to him, he said, "When you were a child," he said, "you used to take blades of grass and you used to pierce insects. You used to stick blades of grass right into insects. And so this was your karma, that you were to be pierced, because you'd pierced so many little insects as a child. And so your karma was that you were going to be pierced." So Manduka Muni, when he heard this, he was very upset. And he said, "This is not fair. I was only a little child. I didn't know anything." And so he cursed Yamaraj that he should become a Sudra. So for 100 years, Yamaraj had to be, that's why Yamaraj took birth as Vidura. And he joined in, of course, the pastimes which are described in Mahabharata. So while Yamaraj was out due to that curse, that was when Aryama became Yamaraj. Aryama came and he took the position of Yamaraj while the curse was in effect. So that's where we hear about Aryama, that he became he took Yamaraj's position. And from that time on, it said children are not held liable, or they're not considered responsible for their sinful activities under a certain age. I can't remember exactly what age, but there's a certain age where a child is not held responsible. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so
thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, here again I have one more doubt, Maharaj. He is residing even in Pitruloka. Aryama is residing in Pitruloka, and again he is a resident in Hiranmaya Varsha. So it is like just for going and just for visiting place in Hiranmaya Varsha? Or?
Well, it can be different things. You know, sometimes these personalities, they can expand themselves. They do have these kind of powers. You know, there are yoga powers by which they can expand themselves. You know, he's certainly not an ordinary personality. I mean, we see, for example, when Lord Krishna got married at Dwarka, you know, he married 16,000 princesses, and his mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki, they came to each and every one of the marriages. Lord Krishna married 16,000 princesses, all at the same time in different places. And his mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki, they also attended the marriage, each and every marriage. They could expand themselves. So, you know, it's not so easy for us to understand exactly how these things take place. It's on another dimension, but certainly he's not an ordinary personality. He's not limited, and it's certainly possible that he could expand himself. We know yogis can expand themselves. Of course, usually it's like a mirror image, but we won't speculate anymore on it. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, and the next one we're going to hear is about Lord Varaha, is it?
Yes, Maharaj. Next will be Kuru Varsha by Seva Padma Mataji and Shitala Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. So, Uttara Kuruvarsha, it is located in the northern part of Jambudvipa. The worshipable deity is Lord Varahadev, and Mother Earth and other inhabitants worship him by chanting Upanishad mantras. So this is described in 34th verse. 35th verse, Mother Earth addresses the Lord as Yajna and Kratu, and she says that all ritualistic performances and sacrifices are part of your transcendental body, and you are only the enjoyer of all sacrifices. And your form is composed of transcendental goodness. Then she says one more thing, that she addresses the Lord as Triyuga, because in Kali Yuga, Lord appeared as a concealed incarnation. Then in 36th verse, she says that Lord remains concealed for those who engage in indirect processes involving mental and physical activities, and he will be perceived only by persons who wholeheartedly engage in devotional service. And 37th verse, she says, those whose intelligence has become fixed by execution of mystic yoga can see that all objects of material enjoyment, the controllers of sensory activities, body, time, etc., are creations of Lord's material energy. Then 38th verse, she says that Lord does not desire the creation creation, maintenance and annihilation just to inflict suffering upon the living entities. But he does all these things for the conditioned souls because they want to enjoy. And 39th verse, she concludes by saying that Lord has killed Hiranyaksha and lifted me, that's earth, from Garbhodaka ocean. Just like a sporting elephant plucks the lotus flower from the water. So to such Lord I bow down. So she concludes prayers.
Who is offering the prayers?
Mother Earth and the inhabitants.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I'll just add here one more thing, that even though he is like everything is maintained and created by his material energy, but he is the cause of all the causes. Unless and until he glances, it doesn't become activated. So therefore the background of all natural occurrences is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Okay.
So those who are the materialistic or Sankhya philosophers, they do not believe. They think the material world is the cause of material nature, and they do not know that ultimate cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes. we could also understand, Bhu Devi, that if these prayers are being offered by Bhu Devi, then it might even be that well, Bhu Devi, of course, she's the wife of the Lord, right? So she can offer these prayers at the same time, being very respectful. She's one of the potencies of the Lord. Varaharup. Of course, the earth fell into the bottom of the universe, and the Lord Varaha appears to pick it up. So at that time, Mother Earth was also impregnated by the Lord at the time he picked up the earth. And the result was Mother Earth conceives Boma, her child Boma. And of course, when he was a young child, she brought the child up to be a nice devotee. But the child became a demon gradually, due to bad association. And he became Bomasura. And eventually it was Lord Krishna who came there and killed Bomasura, because Bomasura had kidnapped many young princesses, and he was keeping these 16,000 princesses in prison for his own pleasure. So Lord Krishna came there to liberate these ladies, and at the same time he killed that demon Bomasura. So it's significant that the Lord came to kill the child who was actually conceived by him in the form of Lord Varaha in the womb of Bhumi, Mother Bhu Devi, in the womb of Bhu Devi. So the Lord says that if somebody is not my devotee, if they displease me, then even though he's my son, I won't hesitate to kill them. I won't hesitate to remove them. So that's one pastime which takes place in relation to Mother Earth and Lord Varaha. Okay. Did we assign anybody to do Lord Rama?
Yes, Maharaj. So next we have Kim Purusha Varsha by Shobha and Kalpataru Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
We are discussing about Kim Purusha Varsha. The Kim Purusha Varsha, the great devotee Hanuman and the inhabitants of that land are always engaged in the devotional service of Lord Ramachandra. So Hanuman and Arishtasena, the chief person in Kim Purusha Varsha, were constantly hearing the auspicious chanting of the glories of Lord Ramachandra by a host of Gandharva. So Hanuman chants the following mantra. So in this regard, Prabhupada has written in the purport that there are two different opinions concerning Lord Ramachandra. One is in the Lekhu Bhagavatamrita, it is given that Lord Ramachandra and his brothers Lakshmana, Bharata and Shatrughna are incarnations of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pratyumna and Aniruddha respectively. But in Padma Purana, it is given that Lord Ramachandra is an incarnation of Narayana, and that the other brothers are incarnations of Sesha, Chakra and Sankha. And then Baladeva Vidyabhushana, here it is concluded that these opinions are not contradictory, because in some millenniums, Lord Ramachandra and his brothers appear as incarnations of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna and Aniruddha, and in another millenniums, they appear as incarnations of Narayana, Sesha, Chakra and Sankha. So this residence of Lord Ramachandra on this planet is Ayodhya. And the next one, Hanuman is pleased the Lord by chanting the Bija mantra Omkara, Om Namo Bhagavate Uttama Slokaya Nama. Hanuman offered respectful obeisance to the Lord, and the Lord, Hanuman was saying that, oh Lord, you are the reservoir of all good qualities of Aryans who are advanced, and the Lord is having strong character and behavior. Your mind and senses are controlled. Acting as an ordinary human being, the Lord teaches others how to behave, and the Lord is like a touchstone that can verify all good qualities. And the Lord is worshipped by Brahmanas, and He is the supreme person and the King of Kings. And the next sloka, the Hanuman is praying that the Lord whose pure form, Satchidananda Vigraha, is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature because of his spiritual potency. That form can be perceived by pure consciousness or Krishna consciousness only. The Lord is one without a second, and he is not subjected to material vision, so he is known as transcendental. He has no material activities, form or name, all are spiritual. So, and then let us be firmly fixed at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra. So in this regard, Srila Prabhupada was saying in the purport, he quoted 2 slokas from Brahma Samhita. So one Brahma Samhita, one sloka is saying that Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishtan Naravadara Magrot Bhuvaneshu Kindu Krishna Swayam Samahod Parama Pumanyo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I worship, the Brahma is saying that I worship the Supreme Lord Govinda, who is always situated in various incarnations such as Rama, Nrsimha and many sub-incarnations as well, but who is the original personality of Godhead known as Krishna and who incarnates personally also. Krishna, who is Vishnu Tattva, has expanded himself in many Vishnu forms, of which Lord Ramachandra is one. So, and then another one is that, and again, Prabhupada is saying that unless one is saturated with love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot appreciate the transcendental value of Lord Ramachandra. One cannot see him with material eyes, because demons like Ravana have no spiritual vision, so they consider Lord Ramachandra an ordinary Kshatriya king. So Ravana therefore attempted to kidnap Lord Ramachandra's eternal consort. Then another sloka from Brahma Samhita, Prabhupada quoted that Premanjana Churida Bhakti Vilochanena Sanda Sadeva Hrideshu Vilokayanti Yamsyama Sundaram Achindya Gunasturupam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajavi. So I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in his eternal form of Syama Sundara, situated within the heart of the devotee. And then Okay, and that much, and then next verse, 5th verse, that Mataji, Kalpana Mataji is explaining.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Danda Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
In the 5th verse, here it is said that Ravana, the chief of the Rakshas, could not be killed by men. So Lord Ramachandra takes his form, a Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of human to kill Ravana. And he also takes this form to teach the mortal beings in the material world that which all these mortal beings are centered in the material happiness around sex and around wife, which causes more misery, many misery. And Lord Ramachandra is self-sufficient, and there is no need for his lamentation, there is nothing for him to lament. So, and here it says that the Lord Ramachandra takes his form to protect the devotees, and not only to satisfy them by his personal presence, but also to teach them so that they will not fall down from the devotional service. And he teaches them, Lord Ramachandra taught the devotees that it is better not to enter married life. And if one enters married life, he says you should be a very devoted husband and should protect the give full protection to his wife. And he says, and he displays this personally. And Lord Ramchandra wanted to instruct both of them. That he says there are two classes. Prabhupada says there are two classes of devotees. That is, people who follow religious principles and those who are devotees. And he says that Lord Ramchandra wanted to instruct both of them how to fully adapt to the discipline of religious system and how to be beloved and a dutiful husband. And it says that Lord Ramchandra went through all these tribulations to show them how to be a dutiful husband. And the Vaishnavas, Prabhupada says that a Vaishnava is always firmly situated in transcendental bliss because of engagement of devotional service. Even if a Vaishnava is supposed to go through tribulations, he goes through the tribulations and transcendental bliss in separation of viraha. And therefore the separation of Lord Ramachandra from Sita is, as well as the consequent tribulation they suffered, is but another display of transcendental bliss. And this is the opinion of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And in the 6th verse, it says, Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, and he is not attached to anything material. And he is the most beloved super soul to all self-realized souls. And he is very, very intimate friend, and he is full of opulence. And he could not have possibly suffered because of his separation from his wife, and could not have given up his wife and Lakshmana, his younger brother. And so here it explains how Sita Devi is the part of the spiritual world, and Lord Lakshmana is the younger brother, is the manifestation of Sankarsana. And that is why he could not have possibly be separated from them. And Lord is always spiritually qualified, and he is attached to his servants, always rendering transcendental loving service to them. He is attached to the truth in life and not Brahmanical qualities. And here it says that, it says the Lord Ramachandra descended to teach human society how dutiful a king should be. So he apparently gave up the company of Mother Sita and Lakshmana. He could not have given them up. One should therefore learn about the activities of Lord Ramachandra from the self-realized soul. Then one can understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. And here in the 7th verse, it is said that one cannot establish friendship with Lord Ramachandra on the basis of material qualities, such as one's birth in aristocratic family, one's beauty, one's eloquence, one's sharp intelligence, or one's superior race or nation. None of these qualifications actually a prerequisite for friendship with Lord Ramachandra. So here Prabhupada explains in the purport that a person who's proud of his material qualification cannot even utter the name of the Lord, and all these qualifications are not a prerequisite for devotional service. And he says that he explains that how the devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Kolavechi Sridhara was very poor, and how he would sell the pots made of banana skin, and his 50% of his income was to worship Mother Ganges, and the other 50% was he would use for his necessities. But still he had very broken cottage and everything, in such a poor condition, but he was a great devotee of the Lord. So in conclusion, Prabhupada says that it is even in such a condition, a person can be a great devotee of the Lord and can attain pure devotional service. So, and he says how you can serve the Lord with a sincere mind. And in 8th verse, therefore, and he says that it is said that whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need for great austerities or penances to worship the Lord. For me, except even a small service offered by him, by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied. As soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. So it says, Prabhupada says, Lord Ramachandra is very merciful and his devotees can easily satisfy him by very little service. And this is the advantage of praying to Lord Ramachandra. And he says that the same advantage is there by praying to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Lord Krishna and Ramachandra are in the manner of Kshatriya. Kshatriya showed their mercy by killing the Asuras. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awarded love of Godhead without difficulty even to the Asuras. And in all incarnations of Supreme Personality of Godhead, but especially Lord Ramachandra and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered many living entities even in the present day. And Prabhupada says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in the form of, is represented in the 6-arm form, Sadbhuj Murti, which is the combination of Lord Ramachandra, Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The best purpose of human life can be fulfilled by worshipping Sadbhuj Murti, the form of the Lord with 6 arms, 2 arms of Ramachandra, 2 arms of Krishna and 2 arms of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you, Marriages. Very nice. Okay, so we heard a lot about Lord Ramachandra. Lord Ramachandra being praised by Hanuman and Sugriva and the other monkeys who are living there in Kimpurusha Varsha. And of course they bring up a point which is very relevant to them, that Lord Ramachandra doesn't discriminate against them. He doesn't think, oh, these monkeys, you know, these animals, I don't want them. But he's very merciful and he accepts them as his very dear associates. So we see also Garuda is the carrier of Lord Vishnu, and he's in the form of a bird, but he's also a very great devotee. So similarly the monkeys, they're very great devotees. They're not ordinary souls, very special souls. We heard about Lord Ramachandra, his wonderful qualities, that although Mother Sita returned to the earth, he never took another wife. He had this ekapatni vrat, this vow, only one wife. And when his wife left, he didn't take another wife. And that's very surprising, of course, because he's a Kshatriya, and as a king, he had to perform many rituals. And how to perform a ritual? When the king takes part in the ritual, his wife must be there with him. And we heard, for example, we know the story about Lord Brahma. When Lord Brahma was going to do a ritual, he was waiting for Mother Saraswati, his wife Saraswati, to come. And she was late. And so they told him, just take this other girl. And they took this other lady who was Gayatri. And she became the other wife of Brahma. And so they began the yagya, because the yagya had to begin at a certain time. And she was not there, Saraswati hadn't come. So Lord Rama took this other lady, took Gayatri for his wife, and when Saraswati came, then she was so angry, she cursed Brahma, that your worship will only be done in one place. And that place, of course, is Puskar. So that's why. So usually the point is that, you know, it's not a big thing nowadays, of course, even to have more than one wife, and particularly in those days, and as a Kshatriya king, certainly they could have many wives. But Lord Ramachandra when he kept his vow, only one wife. And whenever he would perform a ritual, he had a deity of Mother Sita would sit beside him. So the deity was his wife, Mother Sita in the form of the deity. And we often tell how later on in the Kali Yuga, the situation was reversed, because it was Vishnu Priya was left. Lord Chaitanya went and took sannyas, and Vishnu Priya was left alone. So she had a deity of Lord Chaitanya, and she would worship the deity of Lord Chaitanya. So the situation was reversed. Actually, Lord Ramachandra had come there. He'd come here to Mayapur Dham, along with Lakshman and Sita during their exile. They came here to Navadvip Dham, and they were enjoying the beauty of Navadvip Dham. And Lord Rama was smiling to himself, and Mother Sita could see him smiling, and she asked him, "What are you smiling about?" And he told Mother Sita that, "You know, I'm thinking how in the future, in the Kali Yuga, I will come here, I will incarnate here, and I'm going to take sannyas." And Mother Sita said, "What? You're going to take sannyas? You're going to leave me?" Because she understood she would also come as his wife. And then Lord Rama explained to her that by our separation, we will increase that attachment. The separation will simply increase our attachment, and we will be united in the spiritual world. So, of course, as you said, the Lord is never separated from his eternal associates. People condemn Lord Rama. Oh, Lord Rama was so unjust, he was so cruel. He sent his wife away when she was pregnant. He sent her to the ashram of Valmiki. He sent her to Valmiki's ashram to stay there when she was pregnant. And it was so cruel that she couldn't bear to live without her husband, and she went back to the earth. It was Lord Rama's fault. So some people, they really condemn Lord Ramachandra. And you even see in the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, the gopis are talking about Lord Ramachandra, and they're talking that we know about Krishna. We heard about him in his previous life. Purnamasi told us everything about him, that in his previous life he was a king, Kshatriya king, and he was approached by a woman, and he was a Kshatriya, and he should have accepted her, but instead of accepting her, they cut off, Lakshman and him cut off her nose and ears and disfigured her. So the gopis were talking about Surpanika, of course, how Surpanika had came there and petitioned Lord Rama and Lakshman to accept her, but they cut off her nose and ears and sent her away. So Lord Rama gets criticized for these kinds of things sometimes, and he was criticized also for killing Vali, when he helped Sugriva defeat Vali. But he explained himself, Lord Rama explained himself to Vali, that Vali, you've acted in an irreligious manner, that you took Sugriva's wife, you took away his wife, and you took away all his kingdom, you took away his property, you were not fair to him. And then Lord Rama said, and anyway, you are an animal. So when it comes to animal, there are no religious principles in relation to hunting or killing animals. You don't have to follow religious principles. Because Vali was accusing Lord Rama, you didn't follow religious principles. The fight was between me and Sugriva, and you stood behind a tree and then came out from the tree and fired the arrows into me. I was unarmed, wasn't fair. But Lord Rama said, anyway, you're an animal, and you didn't follow religious principles either. So the accusations which go against Lord Rama are very unjust. But still these arguments, they go on. There's always people arguing. Some ladies get very, very upset about it. But we see from hearing these wonderful prayers of Hanuman, Hanuman certainly glorifying the ideal character of Lord Rama, that he was very ideal. He was, of course, he's Maryada avatar. He comes to show the perfect behavior. Everything he does is exemplary. So this is the pastimes of Lord Rama. and he's worshipped there by the monkeys who reside in Kimparushavarsh. All right, so then next we'll go on. We're going to hear text number, we're up to text number 10, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, actually, no, text number 9.
Yeah, text 9 number.
Yeah. Okay, text number 9 is introducing another island, the 9th island. We heard about the 8 islands of Jambudweep. The 8 islands of Jambudweep, which are described as Boma Swarga, or heaven, earthly, heaven on earth, earthly heaven. Or heavenly earth, heavenly earth, right? But Boma is earth and it's the heavenly region. And we heard how on these 8 tracks, so 8 varshas, which are all parts of Jambudweep, that there's a lot of opulence, a lot of sense gratification there, and the people have a life of 10,000 years, and they all have bodies like demigods and great strength, and the wives all only conceive at the last year of their life. So this way they're having a lot of sense gratification. So now we're hearing about the 9th tract of land in Jambudweep, which is called Bharatvarsh, right? Particularly interesting, the land of Bharatvarsh. And it's mentioned here that the personality of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are inconceivable. He has appeared in the form of Narayan in the land of Bharatvarsh at the place known as Bhadarik Ashram to favor his devotees by teaching them religion, knowledge, renunciation, spiritual power, sense control, and freedom from false ego. He is advanced in the opulence of spiritual assets, and he engages in executing austerity until the end of this millennium. This is the process of self-realization. Oh my goodness, you know. I just realized I didn't share the screen, you know. Can I share the screen, Prabhu? Can you make...
Yes, madam.
Yeah? Make me the co-host.
You're already co-host, Maharaj.
I'm already co-host. Okay. All right. Okay, so just because we're using the text so everyone can see it, right? So Narayan worshipped in Bharatvarsh by great devotees like Narada Muni. Narada Muni sometimes comes there to get association when he's traveling around. So Prabhupada talks how people can go to Bhadarik Ashram, and the temple of Narayan is there. Of course, that's not open all year. That's way up there in the Char Dham, so maybe 6 months a year it's open. It should be open now, but I don't know, because of COVID, I heard there was some talk they were not allowing people to go up there during the COVID. I don't know. Anyway, Prabhupada writes, one must be very serious about self-realization and the practice of austerity. Unfortunately, the people of this age of Kali, do not even know the meaning of austerity. So Prabhupada is very to the point, and therefore he goes on to explain, therefore Lord Chaitanya has come to teach everyone process of self-realization. Lord Chaitanya has come to show everyone that austerity can be very easy in the Kali Yuga, simply by chanting and dancing. That is the austerity. Prabhupada went to the Western world to introduce everyone to some austerity, right? Teaching us all Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada taught us, he said, this movement, it is simply recreation, chanting, dancing and feasting. It is a movement of recreation only. But we could say it's austerity, some austerity. And certainly, Lord Chaitanya comes to teach us something about austerity. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya glorifies Lord Chaitanya. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharka Eka Purusha Purana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dari Kiripambudir Yastwa Maham Prapajye. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya glorifies Lord Chaitanya in that way, saying that you have appeared to teach us the process of Bhakti Yoga based on Vairagya and Vidya, based on detachment from anything not in relation to Krishna consciousness and the cultivation of transcendental knowledge. So what is Vairagya? Rupa Goswami describes renunciation. Anasaktasya vishayam yatartam upayanjit nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagya uchate. Right? Give up anything which is not in relation to Krishna. But what is in relation to Krishna, we use it for Krishna's service. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yukta vairagya. Not Falgu Vairagya. There's a lot of other kinds of Vairagya. Smasana Vairagya, the renunciation at the crematorium, and Falgu Vairagya, the monkey renunciation. But our process is Yukta Vairagya. So Narayan Rishis, they're doing great renunciation, of course, in Badarik Ashram. Dhruva Maharaj also retired to Badarik Ashram. He also went up there. Before going to the Dhruva Loka, he was up in Badarik Ashram. It's a suitable place to wait, to finish your existence in the material world, to go up there. So Prabhupada talks about working under the guidance of the process. We should follow the practice taught by Narayan. Don't waste our time. Prabhupada mentions all these other things. Marxism, Freudism, nationalism, industrialism. Oh my, go on and on. There's so many isms, right? But we just need this process taught by Narayan. We don't have to waste our time. Just do Krishna Sankirtan. Of course, Narayan, they're not doing Krishna Sankirtan, but they're teaching, they appeared at a different time for a different purpose. But the goal is the same. The goal is the same. Narayan Rishis, they're teaching how to purify themselves, how to get self-realization. So in the Kali Yuga, the process is Krishna Sankirtan. You just do Sankirtan, chant the holy name, and we can get that same benefit which Narayan Rishis are getting up there in Badarik Ashram. We don't need to go to Badarik Ashram to get purified. We can get purified right here, wherever you are. Just tell people about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya told the Kurma Brahman, Yari deki kari tarikaho Krishna upadesh. Amara gaya guruhana tareide. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, just tell them about Krishna. This is purification. So then, going ahead, text number 10, we hear, oh, is it text 10? Yeah. And then we hear about Narada Muni. That Narada Muni, he's described how to achieve the goal of life in his book, Narada Pancharatna. And he talks about, in Narada Pancharatna, he talks about the goal of life, devotion, through knowledge and the mystic yoga system, So Narada Muni instructs us, talks about Savarni Manu, who Narada instructed this science to Savarni Manu in order to teach the people of Bharatvarsha to follow the principles of Varnashram Dharma, how to achieve the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, Narada Muni, along with the other inhabitants, always engages in the service of Narayana, and he chants as follows. So, Prabhupada is talking about the importance of Varnashram Dharma, and that was also brought up, actually, in the summary. We'll go back to the summary of that chapter. There's an important point there about Varnashram Dharma. Yeah, here. In the summary, Prabhupada wrote here, furthermore, Narada Muni's opinion is that even if there is some temporary disturbance in the execution of the Varnashram Dharma principles, they can be revived at any moment. The effect of adhering to the institution of Varnashram is gradual elevation to the spiritual platform and liberation from material bondage. So even there's some temporary disturbance, just like just now, nobody's following Varnashram. Practically it's all lost. And Prabhupada even writes in other places, he said, no question of reviving it. He said, you will never bring it back. You could never reinstate it in its proper manner. Not in this Kali Yuga. Maybe in the next Kalpa, next millennium, but not in this millennium, not in this Kali Yuga. We'll never be able to revive Varnashram. But we ourselves want to show the example that as devotees, it's important for us that we do have some respect for the Varnashram system. And Prabhupada says here, gradual elevation to the spiritual platform. It's not a very rapid process. It's not like devotional service. But Prabhupada explained that we need to introduce this Varnashram system because people are not able to follow. People are not able to follow the principles of Bhakti Yoga. To get people to wake up early in the morning, to get them to chant 16 rounds every day, it's very difficult. And Prabhupada said we need to introduce Varnashram. And this is the way in which people can gradually be purified. That they're given some engagement in the service of the Lord. And so they're given some proper duties according to their qualification, according to their nature. Guna karma, chaturvanam maya system, guna karma vibhagasha. According to their qualities and work, people have to be properly engaged. So this was Prabhupada's desire. He said that we have to engage the whole world. Now, not everyone's going to be a Brahmana. Not everyone, we can't expect everyone to come to the Brahminical platform, keeping all the principles, samo, damas, tapas, socham, these things, peacefulness, self-control, austerity. You can't expect everyone to be a Brahmana. But some people will be Kshatriya, some people will be Vaishyas, and a lot of people will be Sudras. Everyone has to be engaged according to the nature. But everyone should come to Krishna consciousness. Some will come gradually, and some will come more quicker. We see that also in relation to, well, it's coming up actually. Okay, we'll hear about it later. Some people, they come with material desires and they get purified. And just like we saw, Dhruva Maharaj came with material desires, but he got purified. So everyone has a chance to become a devotee. We just have to give them the facilities. We have to, according to their qualification, we have to know how to engage people. So Narada Muni wrote his book, he gave his instructions to this Manu. This Sabarni Manu, right? And then Sabarni Manu taught to the people. So Prabhupada writes about the importance of birth in Bharatvarsh. This, of course, is Lord Chaitanya also quoted this verse, Bharata Bhumiti Haila, Manushya Janmaja. Very fortunate, very great fortune, such a rare birth. So, make your life successful. Janma Sartaka Karikara. Make your life successful and then give it to others. Para Upakar. So the purpose of life is to become Krishna conscious. People should take advantage and to help them. It's especially for those who are following the principles of Varnashram Dharma. This is the advantage of Bharatvarsh. If we don't take to the principles of Varnashram, then we just become like animals. We're no different. Our only business is eating, sleeping, mating and defending. There's no question of anything higher. That is the influence of Kali Yuga. Everything is now being lost. The inhabitants of Bharatvarsha are gradually becoming degraded, Malechas and Yavanas. How then will they teach others? Right? It's supposed to do para upakar. You can see Prabhupada is preaching to the Indian people. When he talks about Bharatvarsha, sometimes when we say Bharatvarsha, sometimes it means the whole planet. Because certainly in the times, 5,000 years ago even, the whole world was actually under the rule of India. It was the center of the world. Bharat, Maharaj Bharat, he was ruling the world. So it was named after him. And so Krishna consciousness has been started not only for the inhabitants of Bharatvarsh, but for all the people of the world, as announced by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Prabhupada, there is still time. If the inhabitants of Bharatvarsh take this movement of Krishna consciousness seriously, the entire world will be saved from gliding down to a hellish condition. The Krishna consciousness movement follows the process of Pancharatriki Vidhi and that of Bhagavata Vidhi simultaneously, so that people can take advantage of the movement and make their lives successful. So these two paths, Pancharatriki Vidhi and Bhagavata Vidhi. Pancharatriki Vidhi, of course, that's what Narada Muni's book was about, the Narada Pancharatriki. It's about deity worship. This is one of the Narada Muni was encouraging people in the worship of the deity. He's our acharya in deity worship. And he's given, the book is Narada Pancharatriki. So the Pancharatriki Vidhi, the path of worshipping the Lord, using the different items of paraphernalia. And the Bhagavata Vidhi is the path of preaching and distributing the knowledge. The Bhagavat devotees, they will preach the message of the Bhagavat everywhere. So both have to go on. You can't just be a preacher and not do deity worship. I make a point myself, I go over to our kutir over here, we have little Gornitai deities, and every day I will offer the Mongol Arti there. And I like to do deity worship. I spent some time doing deity worship when I was a young devotee. I worshipped deities in many temples. I worshipped the deities and in our Calcutta temple, I used to worship little Gornitai deities there, along with the Lord Chaitanya deity. I would dress them every day. for a year, some year or more. And then I was worshipping also deities in New York. I used to worship the little Radha Krishna deities there, and where Radha Govinda are worshipped in the Brooklyn Temple. And I was worshipping the deities in London, first of all, and Radha Landanishwara. It's very important, do deity worship. Everyone should do deity worship. From time to time you have to offer arti. It's very good for grihastas especially. They need to do deity worship to keep them regulated and to keep their purity. Because the main principles in deity worship are cleanliness and punctuality. So that's the Pancharatriki. And then Bhagavata Vidhi is studying, preaching the message, doing propaganda work, going out and distributing the knowledge, distributing the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So you have many nice programs, Bhakti Briksha programs, and we have these Bhakti Shastri courses going on and Bhakti Vaibhava courses. After you study these things, then you have to teach it. Don't be satisfied just to study it. After you study it, then you should teach it. Then you actually get to know it better. You study it one time, you don't learn very much. There's so much, it's so fast, it goes so fast, we don't spend a lot of time. But if you teach it yourself, that's very good. You get an opportunity to really learn, to go into it deeper. So this is what you have to think. You have to think also, not just only learn something, but once you learn it, then you teach it to others. Barijan Prabhu. Barijan, a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and he told me how he went as a young devotee, he got a job, and he came back and he told Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, I got a job. He said, I've learned how to make bricks. And Prabhupada said, that's very nice. He said, now you must teach it to others. So this was Prabhupada's thinking. You learn something and you teach it to others. Just like Prabhupada taught devotees so much. Prabhupada taught them how to play mridanga, he taught them how to cook, he taught them everything. So devotee means you learn something yourself, and then you also teach it to others. This is para upaka. This is a Bhagavata Vidhi. So they go side by side. If we just do the preaching without the deity worship, it's not good. Because we'll forget, we'll lose our standards of cleanliness and punctuality, and we just think only about preaching. And if you just do the preaching, if you just do the deity worship, it's also not good. Because if you just do deity worship, then you forget about how much suffering is going on out there in the material world. Because you're just there in the temple all the time with the deities, and you never meet people, and you don't know about all the misery and the suffering of the material world. But when you go out and do preaching work, then you confront all of these things. So both have to be there, Pancharatriki and Bhagavata Vidhi, side by side, simultaneously. So Prabhupada is making this important point. All right, so we'll stop here tonight. Are there any questions? Any questions, anybody? No questions? Okay, so then we will meet on Thursday. Then we will go on with this chapter 19. We'll hear about Narayan Rishis, and we're going to hear about the glories of Bharatvarsh. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.